I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
It's summertime, and after 2 years of COVID, our children are bursting at the seams. They need a break and they need to enjoy the summer. They've been through so much. They've been pent up in the house. And then we've had these weeks of reports on deadly shootings that make them feel like they can't even enjoy the outside. But we have to bring back some joy to their lives. When we were children, summer was a big, long festival. 3 months of playing all day long, morning, noon, night, up and down the street. We want to bring our children back to that time of innocence. And yes, we know a lot of schools have assigned summer reading projects. Nothing to take the fun out of summer like having to read a book, but we can make that enjoyable as well. There are ways we can even read books as a family or do some fun things like even acting out the stories and all kinds of ways that we can be creative so that our children feel free. They feel like they're able to enjoy life and they can enjoy the good weather of summertime. And there's a whole lot of games we used to play when we were children. It didn't cost a dime. All you needed was your imagination. So this summer, let's bring back imagination. Let's bring back fun and let's bring back joy so that our children can enjoy their summer vacation. So, sisters, can we share some of those things we used to do that made summertime fun?
Oh my goodness, my kids had stuff to do from the second that school was out. The summer reading program at the local library always gave prizes for any number of kid books that you read. Sometimes they gave you a list, sometimes you just had to be reading. One of the things that makes reading to a kid enjoyable is if a parent reads to them. Now, as a children's leader in Bible Study Fellowship, we have a lot of creative games and crafts that we would do with the kids every Monday night when we met and give them some little token of something of what they've worked on to take home with them that would remind them of the lesson that they had learned. But one of the things that really intrigue kids, actually, I know my grandkids do, they love puzzles. And doing puzzles with your kids not only helps their eye and hand coordination and their motor skills, but it creates a family atmosphere of togetherness. Too many times we get so busy, we don't want to spend time. We want to give our kids something to do that will get them out of the way. And really, if we plan our days to do something fun for at least a couple of hours with our kids, then they won't feel like anytime they want to do something with you, you're bothering them.
It's funny. As soon as you said some of the things, I took a walk with the dog yesterday and I noticed that someone had invested in some sidewalk chalk. Now, it always makes me smile anytime I walk and I see on a sidewalk anywhere the hopscotch or any kind of drawings. I know when I babysat a couple of little boys last year, I invested in a couple of boxes of sidewalk chalk. They were like $5 each. I still have them here, so if I ever have to babysit them again, and I said, because our backyard is asphalt, I says, okay, whatever you want. And it's easy, it's cheap, it washes off, so there's no destruction there. And it was kind of fun to see them do that. And it's hard because so many of us have children who do not have green space or they don't have a yard that they can play in. It may not be safe in the street to play, or on their street, or on their sidewalk. And so we have to get a little bit more creative. Now, when the three of us grew up, we lived in a neighborhood and there was kids in every house. And that was a community. But now our communities are so much more transient. There's more apartment buildings that are not necessarily kid friendly. So we need to start thinking about things like jump ropes, balls, things. If you got a park close by that you can walk down to the park, if it's safe, the green spaces that we have. Sometimes, like in my neighborhood, and my neighborhood is working class, but we have enough parks where they have sprinklers, and taking your kids out for the sprinklers to cool them off. And it's those kind of things that help them remember, this summer is supposed to be a break. And unfortunately, I think we've gotten away from a lot of the breaks. We used to, like Naima, you had talked about before we went on air about Rock Teacher or Red Rover and all those games. People of a certain age remember them, but probably the next generation and the generations after that don't. So we have to, as parents, as grandparents, sometimes I think I taught the two little boys how to play Rock Teacher, because they had never heard of it and I had steps. So, there's those creative games, but there's all other kind of inexpensive, if not free, things that we can do with our kids.
I also wanted to say, you made me remember when you said Red Rover, how as a sub, when the kids had recess, sometimes these kids, they did not know what to do with themselves except chase each other, hit each other, and get in trouble. Right. But I introduced to them Steal the Baker, where you have a rock or a branch, something that can be lifted, have the kids count off numbers on each side, and then when I called your number, you had to run and steal the baker, from the center between the two teams and rush back to your line before the other person could catch you, and you got a point. And they liked that game so much because I would say, "Oh, have you all ever played Steal the Baker?" No. And so I would show them, and then next thing I knew, they were learning how to enjoy the game for themselves, choosing up teams, having me help them count off. It was just something simple, and they didn't need anything except, some, fist-sized pebble on the ground that they could play back and forth with. And sometimes we just have to really be willing to go back and remember some of the games that we played and teach them to this generation that has no idea of any of these games. Hide and seek was a fun one because I just got a little video of my grandchildren where Titus and Aurora were playing hide and seek. It was so cute. I mean, the video is all of 15 seconds long, but Titus goes 1, 2, 3, and then he runs and shoots down the fight to get lost. It was cute. It was cute.
But there's also little things like, I remember when I was a younger mom and I taught, because I thought, what, this is part of your culture. So I taught Sarah how to do double dutch. Yeah. I felt like that was my sworn duty as a Black woman. And I also taught nieces and nephews who were not Black. And I ended up teaching about 11 kids how to jump double dutch. And I had wanted to do that at the school where she ended up going before she went to public school. And they would not allow any balls or any jump ropes because they said, well, the kids just choke each other with them. And I even, tried to explain, what I wanted to do. I said, I'm willing to donate ropes. And this is the thing. This is the thing is that whatever had happened in the past, like 20 years ago, they were still going on that. But the reality is that the lunch ladies were really just too lazy to get out there, and they didn't want to have to be bothered. Well, we had to get out there anyway because parents had to volunteer, So I said, I'll buy the balls. They had like one basket. They had a couple of basketball hoops. but the girls did nothing. So the girls just kind of walked around. It looked like a prison yard most of the days, because when they went out for recess, all they did was walk around. And of course, when you're talking about girls who are in the 5th and 6th grade, they start the meanness. So then there's this whisper campaign going on, and the ones who are in and the ones who are out. And I tried to explain that to the principal. Well, the lunch lady said this. And so I was really, one, I was exasperated. Two, I was glad when Sarah left that school, because it had gotten too small. It had gotten too small. People had gotten too narrow-minded, and they didn't want to try anything. Now, the previous school that had closed, they used to have jump ropes and balls and all kinds of things for all the kids to play. This school did not. They did, and if you see kids walking around in a circle, like I said, it looked like a prison yard. So that just showed the lack of imagination. And there's so many things that our kids can be doing. And because they have had screens for the last 2 years and been cooped up, and we're saying 2 years of COVID, it's still COVID, whether we want to believe it or not. It's still
we're
COVID
going on year 3.
Yeah, we're on year 3, and people are catching it again and again and again. So, this is just like right before the next surge. But the thing is that kids have been cooped up or doing hybrid or whatever, but they have been sitting in front of computers for so long that they've forgotten how to either have a brick and mortar book, or to go out or to play a board game. And I'll tell you, board games are fun for every age. We played, the 3 of us have played Sorry, at our house. And recently, and of course it gets cutthroat because that's how people are. But it's fun, and or we'll play cards, we'll play hearts or whatever, and we'll learn how. So there's things that you can do. Spoons. I'm not playing spoons with y'all anymore. But I got cut real bad by a nail last time. But it's little things like that we can teach our children. So if they are cooped up, at least they're not cooped up in front of a screen.
Well, that's the thing. We've gotten so used, like you say, the lunch ladies being lazy. Adults have gotten too lazy to interact with children, because you have to show them how to play a game. Like Barbara was talking about, when you introduce something, you show them how to play it, show them how to play it nicely, and then they'll really enjoy it. But when all people want to do is just, hand them a little iPad or stick them in front of a computer screen or a TV set. That's so lazy. And it doesn't teach social skills. It doesn't teach interaction, and it doesn't
teach competition with
competition.
And learning how to win or lose gracefully in a game.
And sometimes, stuff like you mentioned, hide and seek. I mean, it's not the kind of thing where you feel like a loser, because you keep going round and round, and each person takes turns, looking for the people and all of that, and it's fun. I mean, some of the games that you all mentioned, and one thing I loved about our neighborhood and my group of friends, we played everything. There were no boys games and girls games. I mean, some of the boys beat us badly in hopscotch, and then we beat them badly in football. So it didn't matter what the game was. We played everything. We all jumped rope. I mean, we all did everything.
Right.
Games like red light,
ran track. We
all ran. That was an up and down the street all day long racing. And
bicycles,
and piggy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that even bicycles, like now there are bicycles, and mostly they're adult size, unfortunately, but we have bicycles that you can rent all over our neighborhood. Yeah, we have those, and that's kind of nice to have. But also, a lot of kids don't even learn how to ride a bike. Now, we taught Sarah when she was, I want to say 6 years old, maybe 5 or 6. And the first thing I told her was, okay, you're going to fall. You're going to fall a lot, and you're going to get hurt, and you're going to get up, and you're going to get right back on. And we did. And she would ride a bike. And I don't think she's ridden a bike for years now, but I know for a fact, because it's happened to me, if she gets back on a bike, she will automatically know how to ride that bike because she's done it before.
Yeah, I mean,
those are the kinds of things. But a lot of our kids don't learn those rites of passage, either because bicycles are $1,000, or you don't have a safe place to ride a bike, or those kinds of things. So we have to also practice a little more environmental justice, which is a whole nother talk for another day. But get our kids the skills that they have. In my neighborhood, it's very highly Hispanic, so there are a lot of children who have who play soccer. That's great. It takes a ball. It's a ball. And we have tons and tons of kids. It doesn't matter if they're playing. I see these 3 and 4-year-old kids out there with their parents, kicking the ball around, and it's great. So it's things like that. Get out, get some vitamin D, wear sunscreen, and get your kids doing something.
Well, that's the whole thing about health. If you don't keep your body active, you're more susceptible to sickness because you don't have a strong physical body that can fight any kind of illness. You haven't exercised and built up an immunity. So sitting around in the house is not going to keep you from getting sick. It's going to probably weaken you and make you even sicker. Any little thing happens, any little change in weather. So we really do our children an injustice by not exposing them to the joys of life and being able to do something as little as, like you say, kicking around a ball. I mean, what does it take? And there are so many games. And for those people who we've listed some games, we didn't explain how to play. This is a real brief explanation. Red Rover, real simple. A group of people, they form a line, they hold hands. They're across from another group of people who form a line and hold hands. And then you say, Red Rover, send so-and-so, name a person, right over. And so that person whose name you call, they got to run and try to break this human chain that you've made with your hands held. And if they don't break the chain, then they're on your side. And then the next side, they call somebody over to come and try to break their chain. And if they don't break through,
the trick is to look for the weakest link. Usually I was the weakest link.
And you know what's funny? What's funny, I thought
and then if you break through, you get to steal a person from their team and take them back.
Yes. So the team who ends up with everybody, that's the winning team. I mean, it's a fun game, and we used to have the whole block playing the game. I mean, the youngest to the oldest, and I still remember the one who was best at the game. It was Melva down the street, Melva Johnson. She was the best.
Oh my goodness!
Now you're naming names. Well, something else too. Parents need to be proactive, even in finding activities for their children. If you live in a neighborhood where maybe it isn't safe to play freely outside all hours of the day, there are all kinds of camps. Like, they don't last long. They're like 2 or 3 weeks. But I remember taking my kids to basketball camp. That's what made my kids actually fall in love with playing basketball. Yeah. They would show the kids how to play, give them the rudiments of the game, feed them a little hot dog and fries lunch, and send them home after a couple of games. And they would do that over the summer for 2 or 3 weeks. And then it would be something else. It would be football camp or a swim camp. It was always some kind of activity. And this was done by the Chicago Park District, since I don't have kids.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
Okay, that's the thing I was going to say. Check out your local Y for something, because a lot of these they have low cost camps or things like that, activities. Check out,
a lot of these camps
you know what?
Were free.
Google, and that's what I was going to say. Google. Google is your friend. Look for free activities, things that, sometimes it's within walking distance. Maybe it's a bus or a train right away. Whatever you can do, because there are a lot of things that the cities, especially if you live in a city, the cities put together these programs, but they may not be as well advertised. And so you have to do a little bit of homework, mom and dad, and whoever the guardian is, grandma, grandpa, whoever the caretaker is, go online. The only time you need to go online and look for the free activities. A lot of times libraries will have different things. If you have a library, and there are different activities that are out there for our children, so that they're not just stuck in the house playing video games. We've had a whole generation or more that have, done all of their work, they're playing on just video games.
However, and now that the museums have opened up, they have a lot of kid-friendly activities. I know in Chicago, you can get a library you have a library card, and that card will get you a museum pass that you can have for 10 days and visit whichever museum that you've gotten your card for. And sometimes they have specific game times and programs for kids of various ages to participate in, especially at the Children's Museum. And they have free days and free nights. We always took advantage of those. And even here, when I had my grandson Royal here for a week, we went to the Children's Museum. It was $2.50. And he played there all day. They had, it isn't as big as the one in Chicago, but it was adequate for him, who's 5.
Exactly.
And it was really fun. That was one of the fun things we did. We went to parks now. You can get me talking about my grandson, because Royal easily made friends with kids at the park. They were, like you said, kicking around a ball. He started talking. They started playing. It was like they were old friends. It was
right.
Children are like that. Children are like that. They make friends easier. They make friends so easy because they don't care what you look like. They don't care none of that stuff. Oh, somebody to play with. That's it.
Exactly.
So we need to learn something from them. But the thing is, a lot of adults are not aware that a library card is absolutely free. All you do is go in there, show your ID, and they, fill you out a card, and then you can check out things. Like you say, they've got activities, free days.
Some of them may even have games.
And some of them have games. A lot of things that you can do that don't cost anything.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that made me really sad, though, a friend of mine, Marcus, who worked at the Chicago Park District, he said that one summer they took down all the basketball hoops and they drained the pool, and the children, they had nothing to do. It's just like coming there, you hang out, and then they shoot them away so they couldn't even go to the park because it was too dangerous. I'm thinking, what's the park for? Nobody can go there.
Why did they do that?
That's environmental racism.
Mm-hmm.
Because parents, you can write letters to I know how it is in Chicago because I grew up there. And I know that those kind of things can be addressed. You address your mayor, your alderman, anyone who has anything to do with your neighborhood park. Because I remember when Lavinia was working as a lifeguard on the south side on 55th, someone had stolen all of the umbrellas that go around the pool and stolen the refrigerator. I'm like, where's your little refrigerator? Because we had been at, on the north side, we had seen what they're supposed to have at the park. And head lifeguards like, oh, it got stolen and never got replaced. And I'm like, contact your alderman, talk to the park district, and get your stuff replaced. Don't penalize your kids because of thievery.
Well, this is also where block clubs need to form, because you do have here in Chicago, you have some neighborhoods where people are starting to feel like they're almost under siege. You have, for whatever reason, young people who have just not been engaged with the rest of the neighborhoods, and there, violence breaks out. No one knows how to stop it or where it's coming from. So people get too afraid to go out and enjoy the parks. And then, of course, when the parks start closing different activities, nobody protests because everybody's too afraid to go anyway. So we have to, first of all, take back our neighborhoods, but before that, take back the children.
Take back our children. These children are not wild animals that are roaming in packs. They belong somewhere. They sleep somewhere. They have parents somewhere. Maybe they have hardworking parents, who have no idea what their kids. If you got 2 or 3 jobs, if you're a single parent, or you all both have, 2 and 3 jobs, nobody's there to watch the kids. Make sure that they are engaged. Make sure that they are engaged, because you know what? Those are your children. You love those children, even those children who are in gangs, who maybe, somebody, has a gun or whatever. They are looking for their own community because we have not provided.
Yes.
So we need to, take back our children, and let's start taking them back when they're young. Let's start taking them back. Let's not wait till they're 16, 17 years old or 14 years old and we can't do anything with these kids. There should be community involvement. If you have a Y in your neighborhood, or somewhere in your community, you go there and say, what programs do you have? What can you all start for our kids? What jobs can they do? I think Sarah had a job as a camp counselor when she was, I want to say 15 or 16. And what kind of things that we can get them involved in doing so that they feel a part of the neighborhood.
Exactly.
But saying all of that, let's go to summer reading. I have this thing about summer reading because when Sarah got into Boston Latin Academy, they gave them a list of books. They want them to do dialectical journals, which I thought was horrible. And they want them, but so they took all the joy out of reading. Now, I'm a big reader. I love to read.
Yeah.
And we need to start having our kids learn to love to read. And this is how you do it. If anybody's asking my suggestion, say, okay, I want you to read 4 books over the summer. I don't care if they are graphic novels. I don't care what they are, as long as you understand them and they're, let's say, close enough to age appropriate, where I don't care if it's Twilight or Harry Potter, which I don't necessarily like, but I never read those.
I loved Harry Potter.
But something that they might,
Harry Potter
but something that they will enjoy. Something that they will enjoy. Graphic novel. And all I want you to do is read it. Give me one graph, one paragraph. Tell me a little bit about what the story was about, why you liked it, why you didn't like it, if you would recommend it. That's all. And let kids pick the books. There's several YA novels like The Hate You Give, which was also made into a movie, and you can even make it fun. Say, okay, read the book and then go see the movie and tell me and compare and contrast those things. What did you like? What was left out?
Together.
Yes, exactly. There's another one. There's several for YA novels, especially for Black children or black teens and adults. Like one's called Dear Martin. I have a whole list of them on my Kindle. But there's all these different books that you can get that our kids need to read about themselves too. I mean, we didn't necessarily grow up. We grew up with Beverly Cleary, God rest her soul. But, we also need to read books about children that look like us too. And there are plenty of them out there.
I remember even with Lavinia, I think one of her favorite books was Black, White, Just Right. And it was about
a mixed
race family. She loved that. She still has that book.
Lavinia, I still have that book. Somebody sent it to me for Sarah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Something that really, and you can, if you don't know necessarily the names of all these books, there is a multicultural parent club where they list books that come out regularly, with books that cover every ethnic group of child that exists, with stories that speak to them, with stories that come out of their personal experiences.
Right.
We didn't have all of that when we were kids, and the kids growing up now, they've got a volume of reading material that's fun, illustrated well, and written well.
I also would recommend that because this is what I do for my college students, read books about somebody who doesn't look like you also.
Yeah.
Somebody who is as close to different from you as you can get, because that is how we celebrate each other. We can read books about us, but let's read about people who are not us too. And that helps a lot.
Well, I think we can really add to the creativity of our children if we not only have them read books, but maybe do something fun like act out parts of it. Put on summer plays. You know how we used to always watch, Little Rascals, where they always be, let's have a show.
Yes, I know, exactly.
We did that a couple of times when I was little. We put on a show and all kinds of things.
Make up our own lives.
Yes.
But it has to be all kid-centered. Kids have to be able to do it themselves, because once the adults get involved, it gets messy.
Let the children create and let them entertain us, because they love doing that. I mean, and it costs nothing to put on a play in your backyard, have them come up with the lines and the characters and all that. Even if they want to take a part out of a book. or
Yeah.
have them write their own stories and
Or write their
illustrate the
own
stories.
plays. Yes.
And
People
sometimes,
discover-
give them, crayons, paper and
Yeah.
crayons, and
You
draw
will
some
discover
things.
a volume of creativity in your kids. There are different art clubs, art programs that are complete. Well, I'm speaking for Chicago again. That are completely free. A lot of times you can find out about free stuff just by Googling what
Free
you're
stuff.
looking for. And
Free,
you will be amazed at what comes up, because I know before my grandson came to stay with us during his school vacation, I didn't even know that they had any parks in this city. I was like, they don't have any parks around here. But when I had a child with me and had to look, I found out there were like a number of parks that were actually within walking distance.
Right.
I don't know how I missed them, but of course I didn't have a child to entertain. But if you look for things, you will find them, and you'll be surprised at how many of these things are actually free.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Sarah actually played golf one summer. One of my friends, her son was doing it, and she said they had a golf program, and she was actually pretty good. And one of the guys says, if you want to like have her continue, but she really wasn't that interested in it, but she was very good. And they says, we'll, have her come out, and, Tiger Woods is going to be coming around and all this other kind of stuff. But she just really wasn't interested. I don't even know. I think we finally tossed those clubs that she had. But, but that was like a free program that they had here in Boston, for kids, for Boston kids, for
Yeah.
kids that lived in the city. So look for free things. Look for things that aren't going to cost you, because even if you can, a lot of people, they want to do these things, and then the price of day camp or sleepaway camp is onerous. And there are plenty of things that you can have during the day. If you can find a place where they can teach your kid to swim for free, do that, because a lot of our kids can't swim.
Oh,
And
that's true.
and
You know
there's
what?
it's a life skill that we need.
Yeah. Well, I want to take a quick break, and because it doesn't look like we've covered everything. But when we come back, I want to talk about how do you get adults involved in maybe creating things like teams and so forth, so that you could really bring in some of those people who've been left out, and then as a result start doing some destructive things. Because we've had some people that were successful at that. So I just want to take a quick break and then think about, because some of I know, Cheryl, have coached a drill team and things like that. So if you could engage a group of young people and get them involved and get them in a group activity that would take up their time and teach them some social skills, what are some steps of that? I want to take a quick break and come back and talk about that. And we invite you all to leave your comments if you've got some fun summer activity ideas. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Female Solution Global Radio TV Show invites you to an invigorating conversation with our team of hosts Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. Start your week with Monday Morning Mindfulness with Zelda Speaks. Tuesdays, Self-Cell Care with Jody Susan. Wednesdays, Repairing Broken Families with Naima Latif and co-host Kareem Hamid. Thursdays, Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green. And Fridays, Health and Wellbeing with Beata. Saturdays, tune in 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Time. First Saturday, Success Strategies with Jana. Second Saturday, Wendy Williams Esquire on relationships. Third Saturday, Move Around with Deborah. And fourth Saturday, Wisdom with Mama D. Join us Sundays, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Time for Soul Purpose Healing with Beata. Call in and comment 515-605-9325. Press 1 to speak to the host and be a part of the solution. And we're back. And, one of the reasons I wanted to bring that up because here in the city, we've had a couple of people who've been very creative. Father Michael Flager is one that's done it. I also have a group of friends. They've got a group called Books and Balls. But what they've done in creating some basketball teams. Now with Father Flager, what he did, he took a group of police officers and a group of street organization members, And
My man.
but they you know they took off the team, so nobody knew who was who. So you might be on a police officer and so-called gang member might be on the same team, but they got to know each other as people. And he'd have these big tournaments, and it was so much fun. No problems with violence or anything. They made fun. I mean, they had fun. They made friends, and it was just a whole different relationship. And so people are seeing that it's possible if you can do some group activities with people who normally get cut out of things for various reasons. Maybe that's a real answer to some fears of safety, so that we can stop cutting, closing our parks and draining the pools and all that because we're afraid of violence. So what would you suggest for somebody who might have an idea of a team they'd like to start? What are some of the expected challenges they might need to face with, working with children?
Well, it's interesting. As soon as you said that, I flashed back to, because Sarah did pretty much everything. When you have one child, they get to do everything. And one of the things that she did for about, I want to say maybe a year or a year and a half, she learned how to twirl a baton. And it was because where she used to go to kind of day camp, I think it was after school program. She would go there, and one of the older girls who was in high school, she was in high school at the time. So Sarah must have been about middle school, I guess, probably 5th or 6th grade. And she had been a baton twirler, and she wanted to teach young girls how to twirl a baton. This mother, she had 3 daughters, and all 3 of them, they would compete. And I'm gonna tell you, it's funny when you find out things like this. There's a whole subculture of people who like travel, and they do all the twirling, and they twirl more than one, and they twirl with this and with that, and they form teams and have this whole thing. And so I done my time sitting in very, very cold gyms for very many hours watching baton twirlers. But it's things like that. If you get somebody, and if you have a skill, and maybe you want to and everybody can't teach kids. I don't have the skill to necessarily teach little kids, but if you do, and you want to do something like I'm a tap dancer, if I wanted to, do voluntary, tap dance, one thing you have to do is have patience, because you're going to be hurting cats, for one thing, depending on the age of the kids. So you can't have your expectations really high, but you can have them like, okay, if you're going to show up, we're just going to have fun. We're going to learn a few things. Maybe you have like a little show at the end of the year. So, so that they have something to look forward to. But really, the whole point is to get kids and young people involved in something that ordinarily they would not be, it would not be accessible to them. Because where I may be able to pay $30 for a tap class, they're not going to be able to pay $30 for a tap class. So maybe I only charge them $2, because you charge them, or maybe it's $1, or maybe it's 50 cents. You charge them so that they have the commitment. That's what that is. Because if you just say everything's free, sometimes people don't make the commitment.
And they don't recognize the worth of the thing.
They don't recognize the worth. So you charge them nominal fee, enough that should be so that the parents will say, this is $2 coming out of my pocket. You're going to show up. You're not going to sit around and say, I don't feel like it today. And that's the thing. But then you get them excited about it. You don't make it so competitive that it becomes, hard for them. You just want them to do something. I can't tell you how many people, grown-ups, that I hear when they found out that I tap dance. Oh, I always wanted to do that. And to the point of like, you know what? I could probably volunteer at some point and teach and I have taught an adult class, but because so many people want to do little things like that, maybe you want to do baton twirling, maybe you want to teach them a little track or swimming or soccer or something, or t-ball. Sarah also did t-ball. She spent a lot of time in the outfield just doing cartwheels, but still. So there's a lot of different programs that I think if parents can say, okay, I can commit to 2 hours a week, I can commit to 3 hours a week. It doesn't have to be this whole big thing. and get more than one parent so that maybe sometimes somebody else can pick up the slack. And, and I know that a lot of people, that we are privileged, because a lot of people, if you have two jobs and you're going from one job to the other, maybe you're stopping at home to feed your kids, and then you have to go out to another job. And I understand that that's really, really hard, that we are not talking to people who have a whole lot of money to send their kids off. But maybe, maybe you can meet with some mother or say, well, let's do this or let's try that. I think that we need to get the community back involved and parents getting to know other children.
That's
Not
what
And
just yours.
music.
And
I have
music.
to do a shout out to the People's Music School on the north side of Chicago, where kids from all over the city go. Very affordable. Rita Simone, who's passed on, started this school. She was a former Dominican nun from Brazil, and she was a person who was just a fire. She started this school so that kids that are underserved would have an opportunity to learn about music. They are taught music theory. You can pick any instrument that you want to play. And the thing for a person that doesn't have a lot of finances, it was $10 to register. Once you were in, you were in. And all that was required of the parent was to donate 2 hours a week. You were doing anything. You were cleaning, you were answering phones, you were stuffing envelopes, you were making casseroles, Cheryl, for bake sales. And but I'm telling you, Lavinia took piano for 10 years at this school. And John and Lorelai also played an instrument. I think John first started with the violin and then ended up with the guitar. Lorelai started with like the flutophone. She did that for a little bit. But it was just not saying that they're going to grow up and be a concert performer.
Yeah, but they do gain some
learn
skills. Yeah.
Yes.
And we interviewed
fabulous to be involved in.
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely and we interviewed great coach. He's got a number of children's teams. Him and his wife work together. Coach Ernest Radcliffe. They had a matter of fact, I think their football team is called the Wolf Pack, and they made it to the national championship. National championships, I think, in California this year. They took a bus load them down there. They got a cheerleading program, and so I mean, this couple, they just do the whole thing. And once you make a commitment to start something, then other parents get involved, because now they got parents that are supporters and go with them on the games and bring the snacks and all of that stuff. So all it takes is one person to decide, I'm going to do something, and then other people will say, well, I'll help. So if we just chose to do those things, if we just
listen, sometimes this is the thing, is that because my husband is like that, he will do something, but you have to ask him. He will. Like, I'm a volunteer type person, so I will tend to be one of those people who say, "Oh, I'll help," but other people, they will do it, but they have to be invited,
right?
Because they're too shy, because they don't want to intrude. They don't know what the protocol is, and sometimes they hadn't even thought about it. They thought, oh well, maybe I'll drop my kid off, and then you go to that person and say, would you mind doing such and such? Would you mind like keeping the bats and balls in your car so that when you drop the kids off, or things like that? Or would you mind collecting this? Or, and that's the thing. Don't take it personally if people can't do it. Sometimes they can't. Sometimes they're not physically or mentally or whatever able to do it. So don't take, says, well, okay, well, maybe I'll ask you to do something else at another time.
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to invite other parents. If you see, don't assume that people are going to automatically jump in, because sometimes people, it just doesn't occur to them. And you can't expect people to read your mind. You can see, people will see you struggling and they'll say, gee, somebody needs to help. And it never occurs to them that they could be the somebody. So go to someone and say, you know what, would you mind bringing the snacks? Or can you pick up, some chips for the kids, or some apple slices or something like that? You know,
Make a casserole.
or don't make any casseroles. If you say casserole one more time, I'm coming down to Jacksonville. Um,
Don't make me come down there.
don't make me come down there. But you could also say, or can you throw in a couple bucks and we can pick up the apple slice? Because sometimes people can't give time, but they can give money.
Yeah.
I have a funeral that I have to attend this week. One of my parishioners died.
Mm-hmm.
And someone just asked, well, can you bring such and such for the, well, they call it a collation here. We call it a repast.
Oh,
but rather than thinking about, what is the family going to provide? They're just asking church members, can you provide pastries? Can you provide this? And that's the thing is, and sometimes people, if they're asked, they'll bring it,
Yeah. And I think people feel good when they are included, because sometimes they think, you have to have some special skill or something to do something, and you don't. You just need, like you say, just be willing to give time.
Yeah.
And you get some little thing, but it makes a big difference if everybody just pitches in and does something, and it really creates a lot of camaraderie among families. Yeah. I loved coaching track at Betty Shabazz School because we got so many people involved, and then so many of the students who might not have excelled in anything else, that was their thing that they were able to excel in, and that lifted their self-esteem. And I really believe a lot of these young people who may have gone by the wayside and gotten involved in activities that are hurtful and self destructive, if they could just get engaged in some type of community activity where they feel valued and they can show their skills. And like you mentioned, Barbara, music. I mean, I've seen people start music groups, and you'd be surprised at the people who can sing, and no one ever asked them. They can sing. They might be able to play an instrument.
Oh my goodness. Kevin and Jeffrey down the street on our block growing up had a little band. They would be playing their little drums, and
Hollis had a nice voice.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, and it's that, but also don't discount, getting like a place and getting some board games and having like family board night, but everybody has different board games and stuff. I remember when Sarah had some friends come over, and they were all boys, because she used to hang out, all these boys. They were in high school, and I went and picked them up at the T, and they've got these backpacks. I said, now anybody else see all these little young Black men, and they would be afraid of them. They had their backpacks. They had like Connect 4, and they're sitting at my kitchen table while I'm doing hair, and they're like playing board games, and and boy energy is so different, but it was such a good experience for me. And it was like, just them being able to sit around and do something and play games and get their hair done and teach each other how to dance, all the things that I thought only girls did. And these are the things that we could get a whole community. Well, okay, it's board game night. Over here you're playing Sorry, over here you're playing Connect 4, over there you're playing Battleship, little kids over here playing Candyland, which is like, yikes. But but Candyland is fun for little kids because they don't have to read. It is fun, and it teaches them their colors. That's why I had mentioned Candyland. But you teach kids to interact with each other. You teach them that they're part of a community, and that's what and we've been missing that. And the summer is the best time to jumpstart it.
That's what we have to do. A game that I love playing is crazy. Charades. I mean, we used to
goodness,
die laughing, acting out stuff, and the whole thing. And also we mentioned rock teacher for those
rock teacher.
You know how that works. You take a little rock, a little pebble, put it in your hand, close your hands, put it behind your back, and you might switch hands, you might not switch hands, but then you put your hands forward, and the person has to figure out which hand the rock is in. Now, if you do this, you have to have a set of steps. We happen to have 5.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So everybody starts out at the first step, and if you guess where the rock is, then you get to move up 1 step. So, each person gets a turn to guess where the rock is, and then basically the person who gets to the top first wins the game.
And becomes the next rock teacher.
Becomes the next rock teacher. Yes. So you get to be the rock teacher.
Very simple. All it costs
in such a way that they can't tell what's in it. because
Yes.
you got to sort of be able to fool people. And it's a fun, silly game. But
It's a
we
silly
and
game. It's all you need is a pebble or a marble or something like that,
absolutely.
and stairs. That's it. That's
That's
it.
it.
You know,
That's it.
it's a
You
game
know,
of chance. You know.
yeah, or just I mean, yeah. I guess there's some skill to it because some people win all the time, but you know, so many of the things, and then what was that other one we play all day? Red light, green light. Where, and this
Oh
was so
yes.
funny. A person standing at the,
Freeze tag.
yeah,
It's
person
like
standing at the
freezing.
corner, and they're the red light, so they'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you have to try to run up and tag them, and they have to turn around, and when they turn around, you have to be frozen. If they see you moving, then you got to go all the way back to the beginning.
Okay, I gotta say one thing. If you want to know how to play, if anybody, what is that Squid Game? If you all didn't watch that on, I think it's Netflix, and it was all these kids games, but it was like really horrific. Red light, green light was one of them. And so if you know what I'm talking about, no, you don't die from this.
No, no,
That was like that. This was like this that was like this big. It was a Korean show. It was from Korea. Squid Games, I think was the name of it. And it was horrific. It was, of course, it was, but that was one of the kids' games. So I said, "Oh, wait a minute, I know this game," but no.
Yeah. All of these are safe, fun games. No pain involved. No hurt.
No one gets shot if you get caught moving. You just go,
Just go to start over again.
Well, we are going back in our memories and remembering a lot of these games. But the truth is, if you really want to find some really fun games, you can also Google kid games. And all these games from 50s on and back will come up with directions, and you can learn how to play these games outside, indoors, in your basement, on your front porch.
Right.
Oodles of games.
And don't think that your children are going to make fun of it. Oh, that's lame. You know what? They'll get engaged just like we used to, and we would be playing from sun up to sundown all day long, every day during the summer. We never got tired. It was, you play a game, and once you get tired, okay, let's play this. Okay, let's play that. We never ran out of things to do, and most of the things didn't cost anything at all, or maybe something like a ball or a rock, or
for the clothesline, for the jump rope, those clotheslines were the best double dutch rope.
And we could play double dutch. Oh, I mean, I got muscles in my legs today from playing double dutch all day long. I mean, so these are ways to stay in shape, ways to engage, ways to get to know people. And parents, if you live on a block and there are children on the block and you're concerned about safety, why don't you all, form a block club, take turns, just kind of monitoring, just make sure that things are safe, and the children, even if you're worried about them being able to ride their bike around the neighborhood, okay, everybody park your car in the garage and then let them ride up and down the street and you can watch them. If your neighborhood is on that level where you really worry about the safety, but have a way where your children can have a memory of having a childhood where they had fun and they felt safe. You have to create a memory. Yeah. And I think we talked about this before. Soldiers in the war that went through PTSD, they found the difference between those who had PTSD after battle and those who didn't. If the ones who went through a really bad experience in war, if they had a memory of childhood that they could go back to, something where they could go back to the time where they felt joy and they felt safe, they could survive trauma. Yes. But the ones who didn't have a memory, they didn't have anything to go back to, and they couldn't survive the trauma, and they remain traumatized. So when we create memories for our children, we give them a reset button for any trauma they go through in life. They can go back to when they were having a good time.
Yes.
As a child, and that's why it's critical that we do that. So this summer, I know we've got to go. I'm challenging all parents. Turn off the TV, turn off the computer, turn off all the devices. Give yourself a month to do some activities with your children. We've given you a whole bunch of suggestions, places you can take them to, things you can do in the home, things you can do outside in the yard, things you can, do up and down the block. Spend time letting your children enjoy the weather, enjoy the summer without electronics, so they can learn how to socially interact again.
Because that's what we've missed for 2 years, 2.5 years, going on 3 years of learning how to socially interact. And that's where a lot of the mental health issues have come from, the social isolation. A lot of people have just forgotten. They've forgotten the problem with the lockdown, especially when they had to shut down schools and do Zoom learning, is that the kids didn't have the same feeling of being in a classroom and feeding off of each other's ideas, and it's very different. It's whatever we can do to get back to, I won't say normal, because I think
that was abnormal sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of things weren't good. A lot of normal was not good.
Right.
But where we can get back to good. Let's create something. And I'm going to say, even if you can't do a month, do a week. If you can't do a week, do a day. But if you start, you will want to continue. If you start playing, if you spend an evening playing board games and the kids get into it, they're going to want to do it again.
Yes. And you'll find out that might have been the most you've interacted with them for a whole 2 years.
Yes.
But it's necessary for us to give them a feeling that they can enjoy the summer, they can be safe, they can make friends, and they can bring some normalcy to what has been very abnormal for the past 2 years.
And they're children for a very short while.
Isn't that the truth?
They are going to be adults a lot longer than they're going to be children. Let them have these moments to treasure these years.
Absolutely. That is critical. Well, thank you all for joining us, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, 3 Black Moms. And feel free to write in your suggestions as you watch this show, and think of ways that you might be able to enhance your child's summer vacation. So until next time, I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl.
I'm Barbara. We are 3 Black Moms. Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black Moms.